Hi, I'm Nate, and I'm going to show you some of the ways you can use our Starforged pieces to enhance your fantasy builds. While the sci-fi sets have a totally different look and feel, many of the pieces are right at home in a fantasy build, and you can use the core pieces to transform your high fantasy story into a science fantasy story. Let's dive in and take a look. All right, so this is just a little wider than 3 feet by 2 feet. Kind of working in zones. Each zone kind of escalates from the one before. So let's start up here in the sewers area. So this is just a simple little sewers build. If you're doing this as an RPG encounter, story could be something like the PCs are trying to track down this villainous artificer, and they found the powers coming through this, or there's this mysterious pipeline in town, wherever. They're following a pipeline that comes down into the sewers here. So ostensibly this is kind of going up to the surface level above. They follow down. They can come on down. Got a little ladder here, drop them down into sewers. And you're just running this pipe. They follow the pipe, bump, 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 into long sewers. And it looks really nice, right? It looks right at home. Pipelines sitting on the ground. In the sewers here, we have some baked in compatible geometry. The hole in the sewer walls is a 1-inch diameter hole, and the pipes are 1-inch diameter. So you can pop the pipes right through the wall. We're doing the same gag over here. We have this is like the wastewater pipe coming through that same whole wall and then pouring out into the sluice here. And it's supported by a couple of pylons under there just for like cosmetics. So it's going through this wall here, doing the same technique over here, just going through the 1-inch circle. And this is like where wastewater would pour out. Also over here, we're using, this is a little 2-inch catwalk with the short steps, biscuit on either side, and it makes a nice metal bridge over the sluice. And that'll take us into our next area. So we could go through these doors into the artificer's lair. So here we're taking a bunch of accessories, combining them with the pipelines and catwalks to try and make wild artificer contraptions. We've got, this is the magnetic lever, just popped up there. Feels like it's part of that set. Could be like the on-off for this, whatever this is, water or energy or something that's flowing through. And feeding into, this is the dynamo turbine. So we've done a couple of things to kind of fantasy this up. So one, this is the little cauldron from the Hellfire furnace. Flip that upside down. It is about a 1-inch diameter circle. So it fits really nicely over there. And then taken one of the phylactery staves and white sticks to the top to give it kind of a fantasy energy feel. Maybe it's, lightning is sort of shooting from that to this, like Jacob's Ladder style. Over here, we have, this is the Devil Talisman pole accessory. And you could just put that in on its own, but I wanted to sort of put it sideways and use it as a little platform to put the purple crystals from the Runic Castle accessory set. Makes it feel like a super fantasy gadget. So between the two of these, it feels like it kind of fantasies up the turbine. That thing is feeding into, it's another pipe, this time turned 90 degrees, so the biscuit slots are straight up. And then we could peg in, this is a turret cone base, and using the top of that to hold, this is the LED socket, the copper socket to hold a little fire pot. This is supposed to feel like a smokestack belching out fire to show the device is working. Feeds into a couple of multi-modules, more accessories into more pipes, another reflector stave. And then this is kind of fun. This pops up too. We've got a Hellfire furnace on there. There's LED wall with the green LED there to give a little glow. And then this terminus is coming up and feeds, and just put the Hellfire furnace on top of it. It feels like it's feeding energy into this. And then this is connected to the Dwarven Forge, and it feels like all one big contraption. So it's kind of fun. You can use the pipelines to link a bunch of disparate accessories into one big thing. Speaking of which, we're doing that same gag over here. We have a Hellfire furnace with a bunch of pipes, and these are connected to, these are a pair of the Power Stone chargers from our reliquaries line, and they each end in, you guessed it, these are 1-inch diameter circles, so the pipes fit really nicely on them. Energy unit, we can just put this here. Now the pipes kind of connect all three of these things and make one big wild contraption with a little Sarnas bulb hub on top. Moving our way around to the back of the room, let's move that way so we can see what we're doing. We have this raised area here where this is sort of the lab, the raised workbench area. Put the barricades up against the dungeon elevation here. You don't need it, but it just kind of helps it have kind of a high-tech look. It's nice having the metal and those angles kind of tech it up. And similarly, the metal stairs feel fancy and high-tech. Like this artificer only works in the finest metals. So it helps give the whole thing a very sophisticated look. Then we're coming off this raised area. Over here, we have another suspended catwalk to get you out. It's like a working area to get on the bigger parts of the contraption. Because once you have these catwalks, and this is a freestanding bit, right? You could just sort of pop this anywhere you have some elevation. You can connect a caverns run or a mountain run or anything. So these catwalks just make everything look kind of cool, and they can pop anywhere. Similarly, here's another freestandy bit, just a pair of stairs and the catwalks. And we're using it here to give it another elevated area. Once again, if you're running combat in here, now you have a bunch of different elevation areas that people can be on. Could make it for an interesting combat, a lot of machinery to avoid. Finally, the sort of centerpiece of the room is this doomsday machine. So we have a dynamo turbine in the center with pipes coming out all four sides. This one just sort of terminates in the ground. This one back here, and it's got the Devil Talisman pole accessory in there again, because I feel how it looks very kind of artificery. We could also use the bident, would look really neat in there. A bunch of little pole accessories you could use to kind of fantasy it up. Running this pipe over here goes down into the Enigma Spider reliquary piece. Once again, this has a 1-inch diameter circle on there, so the pipeline sits really nicely in the seat of that thing. And it feels like a strange gadget, maybe that breaks off and runs around or something. And then this last pipeline comes and twists and turns over here. These are the gargoyle pole inserts, or biscuit inserts rather, from Lowtown, which kind of gave the little bit of character to the machine, which is fitting because the Hellfire Furnace has the little dragon heads sculpted in. And then it terminates down into the Hellfire Furnace, which is sort of nooked up in there. Now it looks like one big, once again, and yet another contraption. And all of this is feeding the main event here, this is the Doomsday Machine. This is taking another reliquary piece. This is the Artificer Hero, the Furnace Portal piece. And we put this is the tri-barrel plasma cannon on top of it to make some sort of ultimate spell engine, death ray or something. Maybe this is getting a little too sci-fi for you. You could put a different topper on there, but it was really fun because guess what? The top of this thing is a 1-inch diameter circle. So you could run a pipeline to it, or you could have this, pipelines coming out of it or something of the sort. But it makes it a sort of a fun device. Maybe this raises up to the city above and starts blasting things out or whatever. And then the back of it, the pipe is just running right to the back of it. It makes it feel like it's drawing its power from all this stuff. So this is right, very much just straight fantasy here, using the accessories in dungeon. If you want to step it up one more notch, we could come on over here, and we have a little secret door that opens up, and that takes us down into the super secret cavernous layer below. So we have a bunch of our caverns pieces, taking us down to, this is the Wall of Force, which felt kind of techy, like the translucent blue, kind of played with the translucent blue in Starforged. And that's signaling, this is a secret area. And sure enough, we've got some strange wonders down here. So we have up in the front, we're using the dead end passage piece, and that has a cutout. We put the trapdoor floor with a hex field in there. So that could be a teleporter or a vaporizer or an energy drawer, or who knows what. It would definitely give the players something to talk about for a while, whether do they want to stand on it or whatnot. And then over here, we have another trapdoor floor with a blast door in it in the center of the floor to then feed us into this area where we have the first core pieces, right? These are the diagonal walls and a straight wall. And this is very much like, whoa, we're not in high fantasy anymore. We're definitely venturing into science fantasy. The scale, right? The Starforged pieces are slightly higher, like the floors are full, a half-inch thick. So we've got like a millimeter and a half of height difference, which feels pretty good, right? You would build this up a little higher. If it bothers you, you could just go even further, right? We could do something like pop this out. We could take a floor and a couple chasm pieces, pave that down, and then put this on top. So we raise the whole thing up, right? So make it a very distinct step up. And then let's put a couple of small stairs there. So now it's very much a separate raised area that was sort of built on top of the rock, rather than in line with the rock, and it transitions pretty nicely into this whole console area. It's gonna be a fun challenge, figure out how to use this strange alien device and figure out how to open the door. Because over here we have the blast door is in the end of the passage here. We managed to actually fit it in the insert slot. It's a tight fit, but it fits in there. And it's transitioning us into where things like the super top secret area where things get weird. And at the same time, we've gone to our Underdoom paint scheme. So we've got this transition piece from regular caverns into Underdoom, and here's where things get really alien. So through this mysterious door, we have this Underdoom cavern. It's got some magical crystals in there and glowing bits. And then we have over here, this is the Misty Gateway, which has the cool glowing blue. And we're using the catwalks to transition us straight to this the hex field in the blast door. One of the techniques you can do when you're trying to integrate this stuff is if you build things up in front of it, it helps it all tie in. So we have these projecting rocks coming up and these crystals coming up and these stalagmites coming up in front of the Starforged core pieces, which help make it all feel like it's one cohesive world. So once they get through this door, we come into like the top secret lab area here. And the sort of fun integration, fun transition bit we've done over here is all the floors here are the Starforged floors, but over here we're using the Underdoom banks to transition down onto the over the floor. So it makes it really fun, sort of going from the organic to the inorganic. It feels like maybe the crystals are sort of growing over built this lab 1,000 years ago and they're growing over it, or maybe they're doing something so the crystals are rapidly growing, but it definitely feels like there's this cool integration. You could do the same gag with forest banks or mountain banks or anything that sort of transitions down. So no matter how you do it, banks transitioning down to the Starforged pieces is always going to look really good, especially with this purple edge here. So other fun things, we have the floors built all the way around this 4x4 LED piece, and because they're slightly higher, it feels like it's set in. They've built this around. They're using it to sort of explore and experiment, right? This little droid's going in and taking samples. Over here, we have fun little gag where we've got the LED crystal plugged into the Starforged LED wall, and it feels like they've got it and they're doing, I don't know, some sort of fun experiments with it. Now it's glowing. And then this is the capsule bed with the crystal on top of it. So hopefully this will give you an idea of some of the ways that you could integrate these pieces, right? There's this sort of the sky's the limit. Once you start mixing and matching, there's a lot of fun ways you can put these together, even though the styles are slightly different. The build style is the same, and you can integrate these and do some really striking storytelling builds here. And that should give you a good idea of some of the many ways you can integrate Starforged with your dungeons, caverns, or other fantasy builds. If you want more inspiration, take a look at our Starforged photo gallery linked in the description below. If you have questions, check out our GameFound page or reach out to us on Discord or the DF forums. Thank you so much for watching, and now it's back to the anvil.